New York, November 3rd, 1954. Autumn frays the light over Mulberry Street like fine silk. Fruit stands, voices in Italian and English. A seventh-day mass at the Church of St. Anthony. The incense rises heavily, mixing with the smell of wet wool and iron from old radiators. Men in chalk suits line the front seats. The new leather of the shoes creaks, as if it holds secrets. Salvatore Belandi. Sal, to almost everyone, occupies a side bench. His large hands folded, his chin marked by a razor that has met his skin every morning since the war. He's from Chicago, a man who doesn't need to say out loud where he comes from. His grey jacket clings perfectly to his broad back. The watch on his left wrist is discreet. A gift from a grateful judge, 40 years. More weight on my conscience than on the scale. He came to New York for a conversation about peace that, in his world, would be sealed like a wound, with alcohol, thread and pain. The reason for the conversation: his brother's body found in the East River, cold October, his fingers purple like late grapes. On the other side, the Moretti family, old coins in new hands. The priest's voice is a cutting Latin, Requiem aeternam dona eis. Domine Sal doesn't pray, counts intervals. Observe. A woman in the front seat turns her face slightly, and the movement resembles water when someone throws a small stone. A clear profile, a hairstyle held together with pearl hairpins. Grief does not erase it. Sobriety makes it even more visible. An ivory coat. Short gloves. Don't look at Sal, you don't need to. Then, in the courtyard, black umbrellas form a low constellation. As she leaves, she drops a glove. Nobody notices. Sal bends down and picks up the piece. Soft. Light smells like rice powder. The name, he will learn later, is Eleanor. And Eleanor is the wife of Vincent Moretti, the man who will welcome him that night into his home on the respectable fringes of Brooklyn Heights, with Sicilian wine and words that never mean what they say. For now, it's just a glove between Sal's fingers and an old forgotten sensation, like the music that played in a Naples guest house when the war paused just to listen to a song. The conversation with Vincent, hours later, takes place around a long table. Men, glasses, cigars. The host smiles with his lips. His eyes don't follow. Words are bridges, and he says, and bridges save or destroy cities. Sal agrees on almost everything. He did not come to declare war, nor to kneel, came to measure the weight of silence. Upon returning to the hotel, Sal finds the ivory glove in his coat pocket. Leave it on the bedside table. The city continues outside. The radio hums baseball. The elevator breathes like a tired animal. Sal lights a cigarette. Imagine the hand that will be missing from that glove and laugh. Almost sadly, on the glass the smoke draws the city in reverse, on the skin of the sky. The next morning, when leaving, he passes by the church again. A group of women organizes a collection for the Italian hospital. Elena is among them. Sal hesitates, moves forward, returns the glove. She thanks him with a short wave. The gesture is minimal, but everything that matters in the decisive years seems to fit into minimal gestures. The world, without knowing it, adjusts the focus a millimeter. The date and place are set. New York, 1954. Between honor and revenge, a story decides its first thread. The real meeting takes place at Copacabana, a week later during a charity ball for veterans. The hall is a dome of mirrors. Saxophones drip notes like drops of honey. Women float in satin dresses. Men with wide lapels take off their coats to show that they do not carry weapons, a courtesy that only deceives those who want to be deceived. Sal arrives with two. Men sit in a discreet box. Wines circulate. The comedian on stage makes jokes about senators and subway tunnels. When the orchestra switches to an American bolero, Sal looks up, and Helena again. The light cuts in the dim light. Vincenzo, half a meter away from her, talks to a deputy from, laughing loudly. Elena doesn't laugh, hold a glass without drinking. Pearl earrings reflect light like little headlights. Sal approaches the counter. Don't look directly. Order bourbon. She, tonic water. The words are not enough. Just the mirror behind the bar, which brings together the faces in a false geography. He observes the nervousness of a finger that touches the stem of the glass, the measured breathing, the calculated proximity of someone who has already learned to be seen without being noticed. "The glove," he says, almost to himself. She turns her face away a little. "Thanks." The word is as thin as a graphite line. Beautiful night. Noisy. She puts down the glass. Her gaze escapes for a second, then returns. Noise is sometimes just fear with shine. And the silence. It hurts more. Vincenzo calls her name. "Elena." The sound passes through like a swordfish. She responds with a slight gesture without turning her body. The band switches to a standard. Someone trips over a chair. A waiter apologizes. In the breeze that comes in from the door there, after all, there is the smell of rain and gasoline. Sal notices the line that has stretched between them. Invisible. Seismic. A line that the whole world, with its laws and rings and rifles, will try to cut. "I pray on Wednesdays," she says out of nowhere, her eyes on the glass. "Sometimes I forget. I almost always forget." He smiles sideways. "But I pass by the church as at 500. She takes a sip. The light is better. Vincent returns with 2 men. The hosts smile. His hand on her waist, a taut possession. He greets Sal, politely. "Is Chicago okay?" Chicago breathes. "Excellent. New York is allergic to certain perfumes. The air changes." "Yeah, change." Vincent kisses his wife's hand without looking at her. "Come on." Tesoro Elena leaves. Sal looks at the empty chair. The band raises a tone. Bourbon weighs different. From the box, one of Sal's men comments, "She's his." Sal doesn't respond. In a world of men, women have always been territory, but some, rare ones, are homelands. Wednesdays, 5 in the afternoon, began to have a particular shine. The sun cuts through the stained glass windows of Santo Antonio, pouring colorful rectangles onto the worn floor. Elena arrives with a scarf on her head. Without an escort, the sacristan pretends not to see. Sal sits 2 rows back, silent. A routine settles in with the delicacy of a clean addiction. The first note is ridiculous in its innocence. "Thanks for the glove." She finds it in the bank. Doesn't respond. The following week, he leaves an unscented flower, a pale camellia, trapped between the pages of a missal. On the 3rd Wednesday, she folds a small piece of paper and tucks it under the bench. "Don't bring flowers. They'll give you away." Sal smiles, a rarity. This is how love begins in mined lands. Through denials that protect, through orders that caress. They don't touch. They don't exchange surnames, although each one knows a lot about the other. What moves them is not curiosity, but the precision of what is missing. Sal carries an entire war on his shoulders. Chicago wants an answer for his brother. He wants blood balanced as accounting. His consigliere, Ruggiero, a man with cold manners, reminds him of this with every phone call. "I didn't come looking for peace, Sal. I came to pick up the pace." "Rhythm?" "Yes, the city dances. We keep time or dance wrong." Sal, however, realizes something that scares him more than any ambush. The idea that Elena is not a passage, but a destination. This threatens everything. His men, his reputation, the discipline with which he arranged every internal drawer so as not to listen to his own heart. Elena, on the other hand, is a house with high doors. She married Vincent at 20, a family choice that seemed to guarantee shelter. Over time, the shelter became narrow. Vincent treats her with public kindness and intimate distance. There is no explicit cruelty. There is absence, an old love. Dead of natural causes, she learned to preserve her beauty in a ritual silence, the way she lines up books, folds scarves, offers coffee to visitors. When she met Sal, she discovered the question she had never dared to ask. At what cost can a woman deserve her own life? The scratches pulse on the wallpaper. If discovered, the scandal would set fire to dinner parties, newspapers, and church pews. There would be exiles and shootings. There would be God, in his severe pedagogy. There would be the FBI, which lately was prowling the clubs with a sincere interest in morality and figures. There would be, above all, codes that men repeat to each other until the repetition seems true. Still, there is inevitability. After weeks, they leave the church and walk, every other day along parallel streets, meeting each other without seeming to see each other. They start going to a library in the village, a back room where the librarian, a guy with fish eyes and clean hands, leaves them alone. They talk little. They touch the books as if they were touching each other. "I was 8 years old when I understood that the world is divided," says Elena, turning the pages of Henry James. On the one hand, what you want, on the other, what is allowed, and in the middle, he accidentally touches his fingers to the fold of the paper. "A dark corridor. Hide, I bring matches." She smiles. The smile lasts 3 seconds. Sal saves the 3 seconds like someone who saves ammunition. The city, however, does not forgive the distracted. A photograph captures them in profile on a corner as they leave the library. A wedding photographer who noticed something and clicked out of habit. The image falls into the wrong hands. A private detective. In whose pay? Glue copies to envelopes. The letters start to circulate. Ruggiero warns, "Moretti moves the pedestrians." He always moves. Not like that. There are new people blowing in his ear. FBI also likes soap operas. They have nothing to see. They always do. Sal decides to go to Chicago for a few days. Business. Elena doesn't ask him to stay. He asks the impossible. "Come back alive." I always came back. "Today is Wednesday. I won't forget." They look at each other. There is no kiss. There is a wind that opens the library door and makes the pages turn by themselves, as if time was speeding up so as not to give them a chance to leave. Feel better. Chicago, late November 1954. The lake wind cuts like a washed blade. Sal enters the Belandi family's brownstone, finds Ruggiero, 2 capos, a table with prosciutto and maps, the subject, the port, the docks, the flow of boxes coming in and out, and underneath the subject, Elena, even though no one says her name. "The Morettis have a hole on the east side," says Ruggiero. "If we cover them, they bleed." "Bleeding is noisy," answers Sal, "and I attracted a doctor." The doctor this time is the FBI. Ruggiero shows a newspaper clipping about the moralization of clubs. Agent Harris is hungry for a chair. Want a big name? Sal lights a cigarette and pretends to read the newspaper. Don't believe in coincidence. Harris's name, until then peripheral, aligns itself with the photograph, the detective. Vincent's shadow on the wall. The world began to glue pieces together, and when the world puts pieces together, tragedy sharpens its teeth. In New York, Eleanor feels the footsteps get louder in the hallway at home. Meals are accompanied by indirect questions. Vincent approaches with a strange gentleness, as if he's afraid she'll break at his touch. One night, he finds her in the mansion's library, an untouched glass of wine beside her. "Are you sad?" "I am here. Sometimes it's the same thing." He sits down. "We grow old." "Elena, the city changes its clothes but does not change its skin." "I haven't aged, not on the outside." He watches her with a melancholy she doesn't know. "I don't like it when you go out alone." "I don't go out alone." Vincent smiles. "Sadly, I would prefer to believe that too. The pressure is not just marital." Elena's cousin, Luca, begins to discreetly follow her. A new maid appears without being introduced. The driver asks her twice where she wants to go. In the church, the sacristan becomes curious. On the streets, cars repeat routes. Freedom, which was already little, is reduced to small breathing maneuvers. Sal, back in New York, uses the dating hotel one last time. Then he decides, no fixed address. They find themselves in a room rented by a teacher who spends nights away, in an empty Tuesday cinema, where a war film roars without witnesses, in a warehouse in Brooklyn, where the radio only picks up static. Love grows in the space between the noise of the world and the silence they manufacture. "What do you want?" asks Elena one night when the rain licks the windows. "A place where my hand can fit in yours without costing anything. That doesn't exist. So, somewhere where it costs little." It doesn't exist yet. They laugh. Almost laughter is quick. Below, a car parks, headlights off. The radio upstairs changes stations as if of its own accord. The world puts its ear to the door. December 12th, 1954. The city is covered in snow. The private detective hands Vincent an envelope, 4 photographs, one of them in the cinema corridor. Eleanor and Sal 2 steps away, the same air, the same shadow. Sal's face appears clear, Elena's. A little tilted but recognizable, Vincent. Closes the envelope and puts it in his pocket. "Don't scream, don't. Break glasses." He asks the detective to leave. Sit down, he looks at the fire in the fireplace as if looking for an oracle. At night, Eleanor enters the room, find him standing leaning against the window. He speaks without harshness. "Since when?" "From a glove. I tried to understand your silence." The voice is that of a man who negotiated with ghosts. "I thought it was mine. It belongs to no one. It's someone else's." "It's mine." Vincent watches her as if trying to relearn her. "He killed my man?" "Austin, is he going to kill me?" "I don't know. Do you hate me?" "I don't hate it." He inhales, closes his eyes. The confession that comes is not what Elena expects. "When I was 17, I loved a girl from Naples. She married someone else. I promised never to love again, and I did it, even you. I loved you like someone who builds a house and goes to live in the office." He steps back with a terrible smile. "I gave you security, name, clothes. I never gave you the rest. Now someone has arrived with the rest. He's not a thief. No, he's a man I need to kill to keep breathing." Elena doesn't cry. Tears would be an assault on one's own dignity. "If you kill me together, everything will be resolved. Don't joke about it." The next day, Sal is taken to a police roadblock. Guns in the glove compartment. An anonymous tip. "Agent Harris welcomes you with the warmth of an educator. Chicago is cold at this time," he comments. "New York too. I want heat. I don't have a fire for you." "Agent, yes, he has a name too." "Maybe. My name is there on the file." Sal laughs. "And the rest you make up." 3 nights in detention. Ruggiero posts bail. Sal leaves with the certainty that the net has tightened. A message arrives from the newspaper boy. "Not today." It's from Elena, firm handwriting. He understands 2 things: that Vincent knows, and that Elena is still moving. Sal's heart is a ship anchored in a stormy bay. Vincent takes his actions without shouting. He moves Elena to a house in Chicago to rest. Luke travels with her, 2 men in the front seat. Upon arrival, a housekeeper greets you with a thrifty smile. "It's temporary," says Luca. "So until things settle down, but the dust doesn't settle. It just changes location. You speak beautifully. I speak the truth. Truth in our family wears felt shoes." In New York, Sal receives a call from the librarian. "An envelope in your name." Inside, an old photograph of an Italian beach, the sea like a calm slide, and on the back, 2 sentences. "I'm in Chicago." "Look at the horizon." He turns the paper over. The sea, the line. The message is simple. "Wait for me where the sky touches." The decisive event took place on a January night. In 1955, in a warehouse in the south of Chicago, on the banks of a canal, Sal was called in for an adjustment. Ruggiero appears with 2 men. They say, "You've been writing poetry." "Poetry?" The photographs rhyme. "The gun under the coat. Put your hand down." "Ruggiero, I can't." "He can, and it won't." Sal takes a step. The sound of boots on frozen water sounds like bones. A car approaches. Headlights cutting. It's Vincent. Go down alone. His face is tense. The grey of someone who hasn't slept in weeks. He gets closer until their breaths mix in the cold air. "I came to adjust, and adjust with me, not with her, as it's always with the woman." Vincent lowers his eyes for a second. "I won't scream. I'm not those boys." "Raise your hand." "But I'm the husband." In the middle of the triangle, sirens in the distance, FBI, Harris. Shadows dance on the containers. The shots that follow belong to no one. Belong to the place. Nobody dies. Not yet. But the ruin really begins there. When the world decides that that story generates headlines, figures and vague promotions, Ruggiero retreats, calculates. Vincent returns to the car. Sal stays for a minute looking at the hard water of the canal and understands. Their love has entered a countdown. The separation was not decided in a dialogue. It was imposed by the geography of violence. Elena, in the brick house by the lake, wakes up early and listens to the city like someone trying to decipher a heart. There is a gramophone in the hall. She finds old Billie Holiday records. Put one on, turn the volume down almost to silence. "I'll be seeing you." The voice seems to pass through walls, obedient and clandestine. She writes letters that she doesn't send, folds handkerchiefs with invisible names embroidered on them, prays on the outside without knowing what she prays on the inside. Sal, in his part of the city, resumes commitments, distributes instructions, gives orders that have the form of normality. Normality is the most tired disguise in the world. The phone rings less. Trust that expensive liquid was spilled on the floor and seeped into the cellars. At night, alone, he keeps the clock under his pillow and tries to sleep with his head above the time. Weeks become months. All of February is a narrow corridor. In March, a boy appears with a paper rose and a note. The April moon cuts the water, go. He understands station, place of arrivals and departures. He waits. On the Union Station clock, 5 in the afternoon, the light is worn gold. The silence between the train whistles is a breathing animal. Elena also learns to wait. Luca relaxes his vigilance, confused by so much obedience. She discovers that doors have rhythms, that windows have shadows that whisper schedules. Keep dollar bills in a recipe book. Teach the housekeeper to like Billie Holiday. The woman, with lively eyes, asks once, "Is it worth the risk?" Elena responds, "What's left if I don't risk it?" Absence dilates them. Love grows still, like a lake growing when it thaws. The memory of the first touch, of not kissing, of the library corridor, replaces the present. The world continues to demand ports, cargo, meetings, teas, visits, masses. They obey with their body and disobey with their breath. April 1955. A letter boards a train from New York to Chicago, a blue envelope, without a return address, with slanted handwriting. The postman delivers it to the housekeeper. The housekeeper hides it in her apron. Elena catches her in the hallway, Reed in the kitchen, standing amidst the smell of bread and coffee. Union Station. PM, ticket in pocket, fake name, Mr. and Mrs. Lake. Elena folds the letter and returns it to her pocket. Go up. Choose a dress that doesn't draw attention. Grey. Fabric that seems to hug you without making a statement. Tie your hair into a simple bun. He leaves a photograph of himself and Vincent on the dresser at Coney Island, 1951. He writes on the back, "The sea forgives what the land cannot." It's not a message. It is a mirror given to those who did not want to see themselves. In season, the human tide rises and falls in waves of coats. Sal sees her first, not for her, but for the void that opens in front of her. Like an automatic door before its time, he walks, she comes. We stopped hearing the trains. You look beautiful. I'm alive. Shall we? Let's go. They walk together without touching. Mr. and Mrs. Lake, 2 small suitcases, enough money to sleep anywhere for 3 nights. The plan is not to escape, is breathing. They enter a nearby hotel, room 504, color-heavy tubs, wallpaper with dead flowers. The silence in the room is like customs. They touch each other as if returning the body to its owner. There is no rush. There is a fierce delicacy, a frightened gratitude. Then on the floor, with her back against the wall, Elena asks, "Is there forgiveness?" From who? From God. He was a man once, understand the price. And about us? I absolve us. He touches her forehead with his index finger. In the name of what we haven't done yet. They laugh. Finally, they eat ham sandwiches, drink water, look at the city through a crack, and imagine that they are anonymous. At 5 in the morning, the phone in the hallway rings. Someone answers, knocks 3 times on the wrong door, apologizes. The world did not rest. On the second day, a newspaper left on the door has a headline about the FBI and corruption on the docks. Vincent's name appears in a paragraph. Sal folds the newspaper in 4 and throws it in the trash. Not today. It's never just today, says Elena, but puts her face on his shoulder as if she believes him. On the 3rd day, they decide to see the lake at dawn. They walk to Navy Pier, the wind biting, the sky washed with silver. The world seems clean. That's when the first car parks in the distance. Then another. Men descend slowly. The FBI doesn't wear hats like in the movies. But their hands are just as hungry. Run, says Sal. No, Elena. I don't run anymore. The pier is almost deserted. The damp wood creaks under your footsteps, the lake. A greenish slide. The wind brings the smell of metal. Sal leads Elena behind a stack of crates. Agent Harris appears, wearing a grey coat, paper in hand. His voice imbued with authority. "Mr. Belandi, Mrs. Lake, we have questions. Do it in a church," answers Sal ironically. "Here's good." Harris holds up the warrant like a clean flag. "Where is Moretti?" A third figure approaches from the side, walking like someone returning to a house they didn't want to leave. Vincent. No bodyguards, the face marked by empty nights. He looks at Elena with quiet amazement, as if he regrets rather than accuses. "I didn't come to kill anyone," Vincent tells Harris. "I came to get what's mine." "People are not currencies," says Elena. Firmly, "You were my wife. I was your silence." Harris raises his hand. "Gentlemen, ma'am." The show is over. The word spectacle creates an indecent glow in the air. Shots so far just potential. Ruggiero appears on the other side, with two men. Betrayal is not a surprise. "It's a right, Sal. You missed the music. I changed dances." "The orchestra doesn't like it," Ruggiero points. "You became weak. The world condenses into a cruel choreography. Harris wants a trophy. Vincent wants to redeem a name, perhaps redeem himself. Ruggiero wants to return order to its usual comfort. Elena wants to live. Sal wants her to live. Listen to me." "Vincent," says Sal, "take her, get out of here. I can handle the rest." "Would you offer your wife like that?" "I offer her life, because it's worth more than mine." The sentence hangs in the void and bends the invisible lines. Vincent hesitates. His eyes moisten. There. For a second, the villain reveals the boy he carried into adulthood without anyone seeing him. He lowers the gun. "Elena." The voice trails off. "If you come with me, I'll let you go later. You don't know how to let go. I learned." Afternoon. Harris loses his temper. "Lower your weapons." The first shot, we don't know where it came from. Perhaps from one of Ruggiero's men, nervous. Perhaps from an agent who slipped in his own zeal. The blast opens the season. The second shot comes from the FBI side. The third, from an invisible corner. The sound multiplies, finds water, returns. Elena puts herself between Sal and the crosshairs. A flash. Her body welcomes the world. The grey dress darkens at the ribs. She falls without a scream, like someone giving herself over to the sea. Sal holds her. On her knees, and time falls back. Her face doesn't show surprise, just a kind of rest. "No, tau," he says, as if trying to convince the word to change its meaning. "No, I'm here." The voice wire comes out hot. "I finally..." Cam Vincent steps back, hand over his mouth, eyes like an unarmed man that he never knew how to deal with. Harris barks orders. Ruggiero takes aim. Sal puts Elena on the floor, touches her face with his fingertips. "Look at me." I always looked. Another shot. Sal takes an impact on the shoulder. Still kneeling, he raises the gun and shoots Ruggiero. The former friend's body spins and falls like a discarded coat. Harris, in a reflex between duty and panic, shoots again. The bullet finds Sal in the back. Just above the kidney, he falls on top of Elena, the lake. In the background does not change its mood. Vincent approaches, falls to his knees, takes Elena's hand for a moment. "I wish I had learned it sooner," he says. Tie out the sentence, although late doesn't lie. Harris tries to immobilize Sal, but realizes that the law is too late to meaningfully save or condemn him. The men step back, light cigarettes, tell stories on the phone that sound better than reality. Salt breathe with the effort of someone climbing an invisible ladder. "Pardon me. It is not necessary." Eleanor notices the rising cold and smiles, with the strength of a candle protected by two hands. "You brought matches." He rests his forehead against hers. The world politely lowers its voice. The next day's newspapers prefer the headline that sells, "Peer shooting links between family." A paragraph in smaller font talks about a woman hit in the crossfire. No one mentions the ivory glove, the library hallway, the unscented camellia. Cities don't have time for soul-saving details. There were funerals, Ruggiero's, closed, with men who look at the ground and promise rationality. Elena's, with flowers that smell of guilt. Vincent remained standing next to the coffin, as if guarding a gate that led nowhere. At home later, he opened a drawer and found a photo of Coney Island with the words on the back, "The sea forgives what the land cannot." He stayed in that sentence for a long time, like someone who leans their forehead against glass and waits for their own breath to draw something useful. Sal was mourned in a small room, without pomp. Some Chicago men spoke quietly, combined names and lists, An elderly priest closed the ceremony with a short prayer, the only one that makes sense at these times. May everything that was love remain. Sal's watch, found in the inside pocket of his coat, was kept in a wooden box by one of the boys, who swore to return it to the right person. That person doesn't exist, but the promise is sometimes the last shelter. Years later, a retired agent, Harris, now calmer, less ambitious, would remember. In a bar conversation, the couple on the pier would say it wasn't about crime. After all, it was about a kind of music that some insist on keeping quiet. The bartender wouldn't understand. I would pour another glass. In the police archive, a folder holds 2 photographs. A blurred Eleanor in a corridor, a Sal with his face turned towards the light. There is also an ivory glove without a pair that someone collected and catalogued as Object 7. On certain winter afternoons, the light that comes through the warehouse window hits the display case and makes the glove shine as if it were new. The city follows. Trains leave. The lake breathes. Somewhere, a radio plays Billie Holiday, and for a second, time seems to listen. The train left without them but carried their names on the steamer.